A presidential decree appoints police officers to new posts of responsibility, bringing new zeal to tackle the numerous security challenges around the country. The 53rd session of the UN Economic Commission for Africa is going on with committed discussions on Africa's sustainable industrialization and diversification in the digital era. Plus, news from the cathedral as Bafoussam Bishop, His Lordship Jedone Watio, resigns from his episcopal functions after 26 years as Bishop of Kongsamban Bafoussam. Live from Studio 5 of the CRTV Production Center, I am Benin Bumagana. This is the 7:30 News.
Je vous exhorte de nouveau à porter vos masques, à vous laver régulièrement les mains et à faire appel à un médecin ou à tout autre personnel de santé au cas où des symptômes apparaissent. C'est le seul moyen de préserver les vies et de freiner la propagation du virus.
Once again, good evening. There has been a general shake-up at the police force in Cameroon following appointments by presidential decree. The appointments go beyond revitalization to strategic, operational and tactical repositioning of the staff. And as Kilian Datndifon tells me, the move will no doubt bring stability to some of the security headaches in Cameroon. His report.
The security situation in Cameroon today is more preoccupying than the country has known within the past 50 years. Socio-political crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, resistant pockets of Boko Haram terrorist sect in the far north, kidnappings for ransom in the north and Adamawa regions. In the east, the spillover insecurity situation in the Central African Republic. Along the coast, maritime piracy, and there is a general increase in crime wave across the country. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces within the past 2 decades has emphasized on the modernization of the Cameroonian forces. March 18 appointments in the police that have shaken all the compartments of the corps fall within the modernization initiative. Faced with the security challenges from all corners of the nation, it is only strategic to review the positioning of the staff for better performance on the field. At operational and tactical levels, reinvigoration, revitalization of the forces can only be a welcome move, given that declared enemies and hidden outlaws are dynamic in their criminal and mischievous acts. In a proactive manner, the appointments prepare the forces to preempt and prevent unlawful behavior. From every indication, hard work has been rewarded with promotions, which promotions in themselves are kingpins of smooth relay from the aging to the growing generation. It is a speaking sign that the High Command of the police is concerned about protecting the Cameroonian citizens and their property, about the peace and stability of the country, and about the integrity and sovereignty of the nation.
This sad news from Buea. 2 persons are reported dead and several others injured following an accident that occurred in Limbe today. According to eyewitness accounts, the accident happened after a truck transporting cement for a cement factory based in Douala lost control and crashed into roadside buildings and passers-by. The injured persons are reported to be battling for their lives in hospitals in Limbe. As security officers begin investigations, the population is blaming the driver for the mayhem, whom they say have diverted the truck into the bush, would have diverted the truck into the bush when he discovered several kilometers away from Limbe that the truck had developed a problem with its brake system. Away from that, the Minister of Secondary Education, Alova Lyonga, today paid a surprise visit to the government bilingual high school Ekunu Yaoundé, where she immediately chided some teachers for tolerating indiscipline. The aim of her visit, as Joyce Tata tells us, was to get the root cause of numerous cases of indiscipline in the school. Here is her report.
To take down the names and why they are coming late, you should know why your students are coming late.
A call to order from the secondary education boss herself. It was an instructive Friday morning at Government Bilingual High School Ekunu. The minister took time visiting classrooms to right the wrongs while counseling the students to be education focused.
When your teacher is not here, you cannot take out books and read your lessons. You should be able to read your lessons. Don't make any noise until you are free to go outside. Do you understand? And when you go outside, you wear your masks.
She instructed a systematic search be conducted in one of the classrooms, discovering a pair of scissors in the student's school bag. Indiscipline, Professor Nalova addresses.
I cannot send those children outside because they need help. And we, the adults, have to work with the students so that the students are not going away. I have told the students to write to me. I want to see a change of attitude, both in the child and in the parents. They are going to commit themselves to being ambassadors of good behavior in the school.
The school's august guests had a 3-hour exchange with the authorities of the institution and the girls involved in the recent scandal to call them back on track, for their future is too bright to be trampled upon this early.
The foundation stone of the construction of a living center for truck drivers plying the Douala-Bangui-Douala N'Djamena Road has been laid in the locality of Ngulekang in the center region. It is expected that the living centers will provide accommodation for drivers while on transit and consequently reduce road accidents. Transport Minister Jean-Ernest Massenangale Bibe and the Director General of the Cameroon National Shippers Councils, Auguste Mbappe Penda, lit the stone, as we hear in this report.
The living center for truckers being constructed in Goletang between Awai and Ayos in the Nyongamfumo division of the center region is on the Douala-Bangui-Douala N'Djamena corridor, and it will serve for transporters' reception and accommodation while on transit. While officially laying the foundation stone of the complex, the Minister of Transport, Jean-Ernest Massenangale Bibe, and the Director General of the Cameroon National Shippers Council reiterated the importance of the project, financed by CNSC.
The drivers will have a secure place for them, firstly, and secondly for their goods, even for the people of this locality, because they will have a place where they could sell their products.
The project is being executed by the Cameroon Military Engineering Corps.
The first phase is to construct an administrative building and a toilet block, a block of 10 rooms, a restaurant, a mosque, and also a borehole with water tank.
Over 5,000 trucks transport goods from the Douala seaport along the corridor, and 10,000 drivers are expected to benefit from these facilities.
The Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family, in collaboration with UN Women and other stakeholders in peace building, have discussed the setting in place of a mechanism to bring solutions and manage conflicts within countries. At the end of the video conference, Minister Marie-Thérèse Abena-Ondouan summarized their discussions in this interview with Alice Mbe.
The African Women Network Cameroon chapter is really putting their feet into finding solutions to bring peace back to our country. Peace is threatened throughout the world, and we have to know that when that peace is threatened, women should be involved because they do it with their heart. They don't have any particular interest. So the AWL Network Cameroon chapter, with the support of UN Women, is now getting officially involved in peace building.
That is the Minister of Women's Empowerment and the Family speaking to Alice Mbe. The 986th session of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union has taken place by video conference with focus on climate change and conflict. Cameroon's delegation at the video conference was headed by the Minister Delegate to the Minister of External Relations in charge of the Commonwealth, Felix Mbayu. For more on that conference, here is Charles Ebune.
Held virtually, it was the 986th session of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union, discussing, among other things, climate change on the continent.
African solutions to African problems.
Representing Cameroon at the session held virtually, the Minister Delegate to the Minister of External Relations in charge of cooperation with the Commonwealth, Felix Mbayu, expressed Cameroon's position on insecurity and poverty on the continent.
In spite of all of the goodwill we see from partners participating in peacekeeping missions, when the host government is not put as a priority, when the African institutions are not listened to, then we fall into what they call the Operation Creep.
Other issues discussed too included the issue of refugees and forced migration on the continent. The Peace and Security Council of the African Union was established in 2004 and counts 15 members, currently under the chairmanship of Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Reflections on reducing road accidents, fighting the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on the economy and more were key issues discussed at the 9th General Assembly of the African Organization for the Performance of Public Administrations and Collectivities. Thursday's meeting at the International Handicraft Center in Yaoundé was presided over by the President of the Central Technical Council, Professor Viviane Ondoa-Biwole. Joyce Tata has more.
The 9th General Assembly of the African Organization for the Performance of Public Administrations and Collectivities held this Thursday, March 18, 2021, made room for the adoption of the roadmap of this current year. This was in the presence of the President of the Central Technical Council of AOPAP, Professor Viviane Ondoa-Biwole.
We want to focus our actions to youth, because the youth is the future, and we want again to make a reflection with all sectors concerned to the problem of road and the violence in schools.
At the sitting, the goodwill ambassadors of the association were unanimously voted by participants, as well as the first and second vice presidents.
The whole idea is to see where we can identify gaps in terms of management at the public level, and then see how we can bring our different expertise to contribute in building.
Created in May 2018 in Cameroon, the African Organization for the Performance of Public Administration and Collectivities plans on stepping up our performance for a better output in the sector.
The 53rd session of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, on the Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development is going on under the theme Africa's Sustainable Industrialization and Diversification in the Digital Era and in the context of COVID. Tonight, our reporter Caroline Okie-Anoma looks at how industrialization and economic diversification could be a pathway for Central African countries. Here is her report.
This year's findings from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa have projected a serious drop of more than 4.7% GDP growth as a result of the severe impact of the coronavirus outbreak.
So this Conference of Ministers is trying to look at the opportunities to accelerate Africa's industrialization. And some of them are, of course, linked with the digital revolution and everything that it enables in terms of boosting productivity, enhancing the competitiveness of our productive systems, and of course linking consumers to producers in a seamless manner.
Although the coronavirus has impacted the sub-region's economies negatively, it has also created an opportunity for Central African countries to recenter their development.
At the sub-regional level, that is at the level of CEMAC and the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, you will equally see the same recognition of the importance of economic diversification. This is very important because we need political commitment and political will to advance economic diversification.
With all the potentials in the Central African sub-region, the need to invest in the fundamentals of diversifying their economies and industrialization is therefore imperative.
The network of women parliamentarians of the Parliamentary Assembly of La Francophonie, APF, has been deliberating virtually on food security in times of crisis. In a video conference attended by experts of the Food and Agriculture Organization, the lawmakers from Africa, Europe, and the United States explored ways to defeat hunger and improve nutrition. The Cameroonian delegation was led by the president of the network of women parliamentarians of La Francophonie, Honorable Lydienne Epube. She now expounds on the effects of the coronavirus on food production. Take a listen.
That pandemic has many effects in the health, but also effect in the alimentation. The consequence is that the production is not very high. When people lost their jobs because of COVID-19, they cannot buy. What I asked to FAO is that to put in place cooperative, because people try to be together, to come together to put their product together, but don't have enough strength, enough money to go elsewhere to gather the production and sell them in a low price.
The elite and political class of the Far North region have saluted the re-election of Kavayege Jibril as Speaker of the lower house of Parliament. The political class say his re-election has motivated them to keep supporting him and supporting the party. Ayuk John Ashu tells us more.
At Tokombere, home of the Right Honorable Kavayege Jibril, the population is in ecstasy to celebrate the re-election of the one they consider as a political icon and role model.
Our father to be elected as a proud Speaker of the National Assembly. We are here in the Tokombere and Mayosava, particularly in the Far North. We are very happy for this confident. We are here to support him. Through him, His Excellency Paul Biya.
In Marwa, the CPDM following sees the renewal of confidence in the House Speaker as a consolidation of the bond between the Far North region and the chair of the CPDM, President Paul Biya.
Congratulations to the President of the National Assembly, who once more received the confidence of the head of state for all Far North region. He is a representative of our region.
Inhabitants of the region are anxiously awaiting for the homecoming of the House Speaker-elect to express their gratitude and loyalty.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
Let's now cut into the second canto of this newscast and talk more about COVID. One of the recommendations from health professionals in Cameroon is for everyone who notices any symptoms of COVID-19 to go for a coronavirus test. Medics say the COVID-19 test will detect the actual status of the individual and make a clear difference between those with mild symptoms and those with severe symptoms. But there's also a third that is referring to those who are considered to be asymptomatic. Let's find out more from Baldwin Sama, who is standing by at the Public Health Emergency Center, CUSP, for detail. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening. It becomes quite disturbing getting the latest figures as concerns the spread of COVID-19 in the different regions of Cameroon, confirming the fact that we have had this resurgence of the pandemic in Cameroon. But what about asymptomatic cases? Let's find out from our guest tonight, Dr. Frank Amabo, who is an epidemiologist. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Balvin.
With the resurgence of the pandemic in Cameroon, many people are worried about this particular group of persons, asymptomatic cases. Explain to us.
So I want to start by a definition of asymptomatic cases. It's important that we understand that with the COVID-19, it is possible to have persons that have the disease that test positive but did not present any of the common symptoms such as cough, difficulty breathing, or a fever. And this is an issue because these persons constitute a bulk. As mentioned in an earlier discussion that we had, mass screening is an important initiative to be able to identify these persons because these tests are done systematically to persons whether they present symptoms or not and can help us to catch persons that are asymptomatic, to rapidly isolate them and thus interrupt the chain of transmission of COVID-19 in Cameroon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Amabo, for being our guest this evening, and all those explanations as concerns asymptomatic cases. Our take-home message is whenever you notice any of these symptoms as far as COVID-19 is concerned, don't hesitate to have yourself screened and get to know your status, talking about the spread of the coronavirus in Cameroon. Back to you.
And continue taking good care of yourself. Baldwin Sama van Cayman. Let's go over to Bafoussam, where the Bishop of Bafoussam, His Lordship Dieudonné Watio, has resigned from his episcopal functions after serving for 26 years as Bishop of Nkongsamba and Bafoussam. Well, according to news, that is normally what happens with episcopal functions at a certain level with the Roman Catholic Church. The announcement was made this morning at the St. Joseph Cathedral in Bafoussam during a mass by the Apostolic Nuncio to Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, His Lordship Julio Morad. In a subsequent newscast, we'll be hearing more, and Chanceline Nanze will be telling us more about this mass. In the continuation of our series on violence in schools, it has been noticed that the consumption of drugs and substance abuse has been a major cause of juvenile delinquency on campuses. Besides a steady sensitization by authorities to eradicate the ill, the Kam Siham Foundation in Douala has been working as a rehab for students to get back to school. On all of these assignments, here is Cynthia Saptala.
These are teenagers currently undergoing detox at the Kam Shiham Foundation in Douala. Over 9 adolescents and adults between the ages of 17 to 32 who have been undergoing a 4-week treatment. The road to this awakening has been rough for most, given that the consumption of drugs began for some as a form of curiosity.
I was in a restaurant with friends and we were smoking the hookah, commonly known as the shisha. At some point, someone switched the tobacco to cannabis.
I needed to liberate my head from so many thoughts. That's when I started taking drugs.
Stories like these are common. To get these teens back on track, many activities have been organized to keep them busy. Music lessons, for example. Drawing and sports are encouraged. Visits are controlled, and leaving the premises is prohibited. Since 2007, hundreds of teens have passed through this detoxification treatment center, many who have hopefully learned that smoking and substance abuse do have consequences that sadly often include a relapse.
Cameroon's leading man in showbiz, Stanley Eno, alias Impe, has released a new single featuring the legendary Makossa superstar Petit Pays today. In other culture news, our reporter Victor Siga says cinematographic projections fill the cultural agenda this weekend and presents them to us in the following paper. Victor Siga. We'll be getting that report by Victor Siga.
Cameroonian singer Stanley Eno has released a new single featuring iconic Makossa musician Petit Pays. On to cinema. Canal Olympia shines its spotlight this Saturday from 3 p.m. with the film Sankara et moi by the Burkinabe director Laurent Debois.
Tu rases ma moustache et tu te moques de mon béret.
Pourquoi il me regarde comme ça?
Savez-vous pourquoi la tortue est l'animal le plus sage de la forêt?
Meanwhile, Cameroonian-born storyteller Azazou will be performing this Saturday at 8 p.m. at the French Institute in Yaoundé on the occasion of the International Francophonie Day.
5 millions pour que tu renonces immédiatement au rôle principal et que tu quittes le pays dès ce soir.
For her part, Cameroonian actress Muriel Blanche will be on screen this Sunday, March 21, with her film Shinanigan. It will be at 5 p.m. prompt at Canal Olympia in Bessengue, Douala.
John, tu dois m'aider à récupérer le rôle principal. Tu me le dois bien. Je ne te dois
Happy weekend.
Absolument rien.
So you now know what to watch this weekend. A book that highlights the contribution of the diaspora to local development has been presented to the public. This Friday afternoon's event brought together local development authorities and members of the diaspora. As Ease Formusa reports, the book highlights methods of cooperation with local councils. Here is his report.
Changing the narrative involving the diaspora and local development, local authorities and Cameroonians of the diaspora seek ways of building a network for effective decentralization. Here, a book on the topic, authored by Nestor Hemley, is presented as a blueprint of decentralization, a novelty for the evolution of the decentralization process.
We need to have a permanent action with the diaspora, and this support of the diaspora is very important for the council in the rural area.
In France alone, over 300 councillors of Cameroonian origin, and thus have much to share in terms of advancement in local development. The Council of Cameroonians Abroad is poised to put in place a platform, therefore, for volunteers of Cameroon descent to put their know-how at the service of the nation. Locals are expected to link up with the diaspora. Here, Cameroonians in the diaspora through a database will be enrolled at their discretion for an eventual dispatching based on shared interest throughout the nation to share their experiences with locals in their field of expertise.
And members of the diplomatic community in Cameroon have been paying tribute to the late Prime Minister of Côte d'Ivoire, Ahmed Bakayoko. They dropped their messages of condolence and tribute to the late Prime Minister in a condolence book opened at the Embassy of Côte d'Ivoire in Yaoundé. Charles Ebounet says amongst those who paid tribute to the late Prime Minister is Cameroon's Minister Delegate to the Minister of External Relations in charge of the Commonwealth, Felix Mbayu. Charles's report.
The Côte d'Ivoire diplomatic mission in Yaoundé, Cameroon, located at the Bastos neighborhood. Signs of sorrow, the flag flying at half-mast, and the reason is this. The death of Prime Minister Ahmed Bakayoko at the age of 56 in Germany a few days ago. Members of the diplomatic corps in Cameroon lead tributes to the fallen Côte d'Ivoire statesman. Our condolences to the family and the entire Côte d'Ivoire nation. Amongst the personalities to pay tribute to the departed Côte d'Ivoire Prime Minister is the Minister Delegate to the Minister of External Relations in charge of relations with the Commonwealth.
Permettez-moi, au nom de l'ambassadeur de Côte d'Ivoire,
on behalf of the ambassador, permit me to thank the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, the government, and Cameroonians for their support. The people of Côte d'Ivoire have buried their Prime Minister after 8 days of national mourning decreed by President Alassane Ouattara.
The Prime Minister soul rests in perfect peace, and it is with that report that we come to the end of the 7:30 edition of the news. At 8:30, you are going to get Lucrece to bring to you the news. I'll be back here for what is making news in Cameroon and the rest of the world tomorrow. Good night. God bless you.
Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.